right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Good morning. Good morning. Happy to look at Dylan on his road. Look at that dude on the road driving too. You guys are heading to Tahoe. Are you already in Tahoe, bro?
Dude, I'm in your hometown, man. We just left Folsom.
Oh shoot, man. Say hi to Folsom for me, bro.
We're passing through right now.
Oh shoot. Look at that. Y'all going to the hills. Have fun. Safe travels, brother. Safe travels.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna fix my screen because I got some people. I'm gonna change my options. I don't know why this keeps changing on me. Change layout. Here we go. Boom.
Are you going to North Shore or South Shore?
South Shore.
South Shore. Oh,
we're in South Shore right now. It's beautiful.
Hey, look at you guys highbrating over to the mainland. That's
my son's snowboarding for the first time.
What resort are you going to?
We're at Heavenly.
Okay, massively huge resort. Holy gosh, so big.
Not a lot of snow, but I love the weather because it's beautiful. It's sunny. It's sunny and cool.
We'll be there tomorrow.
Where are you going, Dylan?
We're going to Heavenly.
Oh shoot! All right, that's a big resort.
Say hi tomorrow, Dylan.
Sounds good.
I'll be in Incline Village tomorrow too. Look at Katie. You're all in California now in the mainland. I love it. Awesome. All right, we'll get this thing started off and running real quick here. First and foremost, I want to shoot some of those who missed last Thursday to Nate Butcher. Mastering Your Prospecting was an amazing event. Thank you, Duncan. He's one of the guys that helped sponsor it for Infinite Mortgage. Thanks so much. There was a great turnout. We had about 60 people show up. It was exciting. Nate brought the fire and helped really add some value, I believe. Everybody that was there really loved it. So we're excited. Creating some momentum. Next thing moving forward is May. May's coming up quicker than we know. May's right here and Build 2024. I'm going to share my screen here and watch something real quick here because those who may have not seen it. So we're going to hear promote a little bit more about Bill. Hold on a second here. Boom. Share this. All right. Hold on one second here as I do this. Y'all can see this hopefully.
You know what the key to life is? Energy is how you get people to list their home with you. Bring energy to your goals, energy to your relationships. Because here's the bottom line, you get what you tolerate. This is changing agents' lives. This is leaving a legacy for their family. I want every one of you to really feel the fact that I'm not quitting. Till every single one of you leaves something behind.
Awesome. We are excited to have that. It starts May 7th and 8th. And if you haven't got your ticket yet, we have an amazing lineup. Scan this QR code right here. This will be the one you can do. Eventbrite link right now. We have tickets on sale. We have 16 amazing, top talented speakers that are going to be showing up from all over the country. This is an opportunity for you guys to plug in with people, especially what's going on currently within our market. We're going to talk about that today. But currently what's going on in our industry, people are all over the place, scrambled eggs, trying to figure out what's left, what's right. Here's the time to connect with the top of the best that are coming to the island of Hawaii. Is here for you. Build 24 is an amazing opportunity. You need to be here. It's an opportunity to meet people, again, that you probably may never get a chance to be in front of ever in your career. So there's an opportunity for that. May 7th and 8th, scan the QR code. Hope to see you guys there. Any kind of tell me some something good. Tell me something good that's going on around your life. Other than the fact that everybody's driving to Heavenly to go snowboarding. Anything else? Somebody doing good, by the way. Tell me something good. We got 27 people on this call. Something's got to be going on here in our lives. Don't be shy.
I skied yesterday for the first time in a long time. Not that I was great at it, but I had fun.
That's awesome. Hey, breakthrough. It's good for you, Johnny. Good for you. Anybody else? Come on. Don't be shy, everybody. Look at that. No good news. Nothing good, huh? All right. What's up, Ronnie? Morning, Kim. Morning, Cindy. All right. So we are going to move forward in here, and hopefully you can see you guys that build May 7th and 8th. Mortgage Minute. We got Duncan again, who sponsored us for the Nate Butcher event. Duncan's going to give us a quick mortgage update before we jump into the conversation day.
Morning, everybody. I wanted to update everybody on a few things. We take over a lot of loans from other lenders, and there's a bunch of different ways we can handle situations where a borrower doesn't have enough income. A lot of times we'll get borrowers that come to us saying they went to a few different lenders and they can't qualify for them at all, or they can only qualify them for very little, very small amount. There are a bunch of different tools that we use. And I thought most realtors, or I thought everybody knew what a DSCR loan, but I talked to a seasoned realtor the other day, and she said, what's a DSCR loan? A DSCR loan is for investors. It uses the income from the property to qualify instead of using the borrower's income. So none of the borrower's income is used. So it's called a debt service coverage ratio loan. They use the debt service coverage ratio to cover the loan. And we can do them even with if the debt service does not cover the loan. We have them down to 0, so it doesn't have to cover. The rate's higher when it doesn't cover, but it allows people to borrow and buy a place that even if they have no qualifying income. And we can do it for foreign borrowers. We can do it for condotels. So we do a lot of those loans for people that want to buy investment properties. We also do no income documentation loans for primary residence or second home. As long as they have good credit and at least 20% down plus reserves, it's a good solution for people that have enough cash and have good credit and just don't have enough qualifying income to buy a place. So we've been able to use that loan to solve a lot of issues where people couldn't have enough qualifying income as well. And a lot of times we have people that have good income, but they don't report it on their tax returns enough, or they have some reason it doesn't qualify. And even if they haven't been in business for 2 years, they started a new job or various reasons, we're able to use alternative qualifying using bank statement loans, P&L, VOE, or 1099 loans, where we don't need the bank statement or the tax returns. We don't need the normal income docs, and we can qualify people based on these alternative documents. We also, if someone doesn't have enough income to buy a single family home, sometimes they can buy a multi-unit property that has income from the other units. So that's another strategy that can be done. Some people can get significant income from the other units that can be used for qualifying. 75% of the income from the other units can qualify. And Fannie Mae just recently changed their rules. So for multi-unit properties, they used to require 25%. Now they only require 5% down for multi-unit properties for primary residence. So that can work really well in some cases as well, though there's not much inventory for multi-unit properties, but that is a great alternative. For people that are at least 55 and up, then you can use a reverse mortgage. And reverse mortgages don't need the same qualifying income or credit that a normal mortgage does because there are no monthly payments. There's no monthly payment to qualify for. And so people that are senior and they don't have, they're retired, they don't have much income, they can qualify for a reverse mortgage, and they can use those to purchase places as well if they have enough equity. So that's a great solution for seniors. We also use various methods of creating streams of income that other lenders don't know how to do. For example, we'll use trust distributions, retirement distributions, or asset depletion. When people have, I have loans all the time where people have a good amount of cash, and we'll create streams of income from that in order for them to qualify. And we allow them to close on deals that no other lender could help them with. And we also, if they don't satisfy any of these other tools that we use, then they can get a cosigner or a co-borrower. Or if they have a cosigner that doesn't have a lot of income, but they have a lot of assets, they can use a trust distribution from family. I'm doing one of those right now where the mother has a lot of cash, not a lot of income. So instead of having her cosign, we're setting up a trust distribution from the mother. So there's all these different ways to make deals work when someone doesn't have enough qualifying income. And there are just not a lot of creative loan officers out there that know how to make these deals work. Our team does know how to make these work. We've got now a team of 10 loan officers across 3 islands. We got a couple on the Big Island. We got one on Maui and soon to be 2 or 3 in Maui as well. And you can always look up our awesome 5-star reviews, and look forward to helping anybody. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions on anything. I get texts and emails and calls all the time from realtors with questions, even if it has nothing to do with me helping them with any customer. So I'm always happy to help, and hopefully that gives you some good tips to help fix some situations where borrowers can't otherwise qualify.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I took 2 things away from that, Duncan. I just realized you said reverse mortgage and 55 and up and senior citizens. Dude, I'm like 3 years away from being 55 and up and a senior citizen reverse mortgage. I cannot believe I'm actually in that space in my life, but geez Louise, that stuck out to me. I can do reverse.
Traditionally, the normal HECM reverse mortgage is 62 and up.
Yeah.
But there are proprietary products at 55 and up. And so we've got lenders that can do that.
Yeah, I was just this crazy. Once you get to this point, I was really saying, I posted something the other day, by the way. This is kind of sidebar of all these different places that give discounts to seniors. And like, it's now 50 and older. They consider that opportunities. Like, I go to Banana Republic and get 30% off at Banana Republic. Not like you shop there, but yeah, I could. Anyway, side note,
Awesome.
Squirrels, crazy. Thanks for your insight, Duncan. Always appreciate you, my friend. Thank you again.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Awesome. So we're going to kick off today. A couple of things. Grateful to have you on the call again, Dylan, driving. But, a lot of things are going on right now. I think the biggest buzz on social media is NAR and their settlement. 2 weeks ago, it was probably interest rates. And now all of a sudden, we don't hear anything about interest rates. We hear everything about NAR. So many. I mean, if you can watch every channel right now, people are putting tons of notes, tons of comments. Everybody's in a frenzy right now. And the reality is, this is not something to be going crazy over, like the fear mongers that a lot of people do. And I apologize if that's something that's a touchy subject here, but a lot of people do kind of enhance things, make them maybe worse than they really are. And I want to talk about that today. And I don't really want to go over like all logistics. If you want to know about all the logistics of what the settlement looks like, I actually posted Leo Pereira. He did an amazing YouTube video with Holly the other day. It's in the comments in the notes there. Click on that YouTube video. You can watch it. It's amazing. It breaks down the whole entire thing. If you want to know that, I don't really want to talk about that today. I want to talk more about the reality of where we are in our space and business and how it's going to affect us in our business, and how that really this is probably an ideal, in my mind, in my opinion, and maybe somebody might have different one. In my opinion, this is the greatest opportunity right now in real estate to be able to build your business right now the correct way, the way it should be done, where we base everything off of relationships. This is where it's always been. Real estate's always been designed equivalent to relationships and how well we build them. And that is exactly what we have to go back to. We've unfortunately been really kind of introduced to a lot of faster, more expedited ways to generate leads here in the last, say, 10 years. And I think it's taken away a lot of the customer service and our ability to build relationships that we should have been building. For those who flourished last year in 2023 and 2022, when the market was considerably down in comparison to other ones, a lot of agents still on my team, I know of very close people that did very, very well in their business. In fact, they thrived because they had a lot of these amazing relationships built. So we're going to discuss a little bit. And this is a mastermind, obviously, too. This is not me speaking. I'll start with this, too. I won't pretend to think I know everything about this. I don't think everybody does yet. We're still very, very new into what's going to happen with NAR. I think there's a lot of questions to be asked. So I don't think we all have the answers yet. But I do know there's a lot of pieces of this that I really want to kind of integrate today about kind of settling the waters and putting out some of the fires that are going right now, where people are really kind of up in all these comments and all these little videos and everybody's going crazy and just kind of joining the bandwagon. So I just really want to feel like this is an amazing opportunity. So for those who have some insights or questions on something that's going on or something that's in your business right now you want to integrate, feel free. Unmute your microphone, talk. I want to kind of throw Dylan in there. Dylan's got a lot of things. He was on a great panel. For those who didn't see it yesterday, he was on with Kyle Whistle, Daniel Beer, Veronica Figueroa, Tina Call. Our guy Dylan was on there as well, rocked the house, and literally did an amazing job with all those amazing top talented speakers. Dylan, kind of give us some insight if you're able to while you're driving there on some of your thoughts in that conversation you guys had with Kyle and Daniel Beer, and lay some of that out for us.
First couple of things just on ground, like the foundation of this, right? The first thing is that this is a proposed settlement. So nothing goes into effect until at least July. and everything's got to be agreed upon by the courts. So no change, right? Right now, no change. Don't freak out about anything. There's no change. It's business as usual. If you get asked about it, this all has to be ratified by the court before any changes go into effect. The two main changes, and this is, I think, the answer to when somebody asks you, hey, what's going on? You know, what do I got to know about this? How does this affect me? There's really only two things that are going to affect our business. So the settlement's, you know, a huge document, but there's only two things to remember. The first one is buyer's representation agreements will be mandatory, right? And so that's simple, straightforward. We all understand what that is. That's probably a business best practice. Probably should have been the way it's always been done anyways. So that's, I think, a good thing for the industry and for our businesses, because we can have that clear, transparent contractual relationship as we do with sellers. This is not something that's foreign to our business, right? We do this with sellers all the time. We're just going to list buyers also, and I think that's a good thing for everybody. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which is the more complicated one, but it's actually not that complicated, is that MLS, the compensation for buyers agents will no longer be advertised in the MLS. So there will be no cooperating broker commission rate in the MLS. And so that's what people are freaking out about and reading into. None of that says anything about buyer agent commission going away. Like that whole, I don't know, fear-mongering kind of line. I know CNN had a stupid headline that said something about that. That's not part of this at all. So just dispel that whole myth and rumor out of your head, is that buyer's agent commissions are going away. They're absolutely not. They're just not going to be advertised in the MLS, which means we're going to either, the industry will adapt, right? We'll put that in the private remarks. We'll just call the listing agent and ask them what the compensation is. We're still going to get that figured out. And although the seller is not going to have to, and they never had to, right? It's always been negotiable. But if the seller doesn't want to list any type of compensation, then we're going to have to work that out with our buyer, or we're going to have to write it into the contract and negotiate at the time of offer. And it's not going to be pre-negotiated by the listing agent. So that stuff will all shake itself out. Again, not till July do we have to even worry about that. So I think at this point, the two things that we got to focus on as just in our business is, and I put an Instagram post out yesterday about this. The first thing is, agents all assume, like almost every agent that I talk to assumes that buyers can't afford to pay compensation, which is like the biggest myth and total. It's a poor assumption, right? That buyers cannot afford to pay for their own representation. And the data set backs this up. Everybody always brings up the worst case scenario. What about my VA buyer that has no money down? Okay, got it. That is a unique situation. And in a situation where the seller also does not provide compensation, we're going to have to deal with that in these creative ways that we'll come up with. But if you look at the overall data set of, and I challenge everybody on the call to do this math in your specific market, go and pull in the last 12 months, all of the transactions and how they closed. How many were cash? How many were conventional? How many were USDA? How many were FHA? How many were VA? And I can tell you in the Big Island market, I did this for the Big Island market, 47% were cash. Those people can and will pay for representation. If you're spending several hundred, $1 million of cash, you're going to pay for representation. You're not a dummy that's going to try and figure out that on their own, right? So half of all transactions are people that can afford it. Another 42% were conventional loan financing. So those are people in most cases, 20, 30, 40% down, sometimes 70% down, right? They're putting large amounts down to get a conventional loan program. Those are also savvy buyers who are not going to go unrepresented. So if you total that up, we're talking about 88% of the transactions that happen are done by people who can absolutely afford representation. If you take USDA, FHA, and VA, the low or no down payment loan types, they make up 12% of the overall market. So we're talking about a 1 in 10 situation where you may have a buyer that cannot afford or does not have the cash representation. And that's where we're going to have to use our negotiating skills to deal with that with the seller, or come up with another way around it. I'm sure guys like Duncan and lenders will respond to this with different programs that may roll it into loan programs. On raw entrepreneurs, people will figure this thing out. But don't base your whole assumption in the world off of my buyer cannot afford representation, because that's definitely not the case. So there's always two parts to a transaction, right? Willing and able. And so we know that 88% of the population is able to pay for their own representation. The other part of it is, are they willing, right? And that's something that we personally in all of our businesses are gonna have to figure out, is how do we make buyers willing to pay for our presentation. And what my message I kind of came up with last night, right, is the ultimate goal. If you're looking at the end in mind for your business, the ultimate goal for your business, and if you look at people like Shireen and people have been doing this for a long time, people like Cindy, people call them and ask them, are you taking on new clients? That's how the relationship begins, right? They have such a reputation in the community, in the industry, that people will call them and say, hey, I need to do X, Y, or Z in real estate. Are you taking on new clients? They're coming with the expectation that there's a bunch of value there that they want to access in order to achieve their real estate goals. And so if you start with the end in mind, if your ultimate goal is, I want my phone to ring and people to ask me, are you taking on new clients? Would you consider to take me on as a client? What do you got to do to get to that point in your career and start doing those things, right? And everybody talks about, we got to provide more value. Like, that's a very like philosophical thing, but what are you doing exactly to be a market expert, to provide valuable content on social media, to provide market updates to your database? I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do to be valuable and be that person when that client needs help. They call you and say, would you consider taking me on? What is it going to cost me? That's where you want to get to in your business. So just think about that. That's the thing to focus on for the next 5 or 6 months, is really taking those actions of not just going willy-nilly and hoping that, I meet somebody online or at the coffee shop that'll be a buyer. You want them to know your value before they even talk to you, and have an expectation that it's going to cost them. There's going to be competition involved, and then we'll be fine. So you don't have to worry about it. That'll take care of the whole willing part. We know they're able. We just gotta make sure they're willing, and willing is dependent upon us and our ability to prove our value to the marketplace. So that's my rant, Chris.
I love it. And it's true. I love it. Accurately said, because you're right. It's able and willing. And a lot of people are not willing to do it. But yet the reason why I think is we've been very comfortable for so many years, where we really relied on the fact that we'd look at MLS, we'd see a 2.5 or 3% there because the selling agent already negotiated, put it in MLS, and now we know, oh, we don't really got to go fight for that. It's going to be guaranteed. In fact, we had a lot of problems where a lot of agents would look at MLS and search the compensation from the cooperating broker that they're in, and sometimes not go show a property because we saw a 2% or a 1.5. We're like, so we were already kind of articulating that with our value by not going and showing properties. It is what it is. Is it right? Not really, because we should be doing our best fiduciary duty to our client, which doesn't mean about that. But the reality is that this is not going away. Dylan's right. The listing agent or the seller. Go ahead. What do you got?
Well, on that, one of my favorite parts about the settlement specifics, if you read into it, is that when and if you negotiate compensation with your buyer, the amount you agree upon, you can take no more than the amount you agree upon. So what that does, right? Because what everybody's concerned about is like, oh my goodness, what if somebody will just represent a buyer for $1,000, or what if they'll do it for 1%, or whatever it is, right? We're always worried about the race to the bottom. That's cool. The people that are always willing to be discount, agents are always going to be in the market. But if they agree to a buyer's rep agreement at 1%, and that seller, because you're a good listing agent, you negotiate a 3% commission to the buyer's agent. If that's the case, they enter into a contract on that property, they only get 1%. You can keep the other 2, right? So that's the thing that is gonna force the marketplace not to undercut the market, is because you're gonna screw yourself out of money. You can take less, but you cannot take more. So if you tell a buyer, hey, I'm gonna work with you for 1%, and then that seller's offering 3, you get 1%. You don't get the other 2%. So this is a stuff that makes the bar in terms of quality of service to the marketplace, and that's a good thing.
Yep, I like it. And people will undervalue themselves constantly. I think this is the value. I always use this analogy. Attorneys, high-paid level attorneys, they cost money. And to attest to what Dylan was saying, imagine back in the day, I'm using this across the board. Like O.J. Simpson needed Johnny Cochran to get out of what he needed to get out of. He wouldn't have got just a Joe Schmo guy you see on the street with a panel on the park bench. He would have not paid for that. You pay for value. And Johnny Cochran was value. He cost millions of dollars to represent him, but at the end of the day, it did work in his favor. But that's my point. Your value proposition is based on that. And for your phone call to ring, like Dylan was saying, you need to provide the value and show that you are a valuable space, whether it's on social media or in the sphere of people who are watching, because we are now in a space, though, where social media is the biggest level for people to connect. So they're looking at you. They're seeing who you are. They're seeing what you represent. You speak what you are. And so that at that point, you got to really value yourself out there. But this goes back also to negotiations on my end, I believe, is where I love is that when you're sitting down and doing a buyer consultation. So many people in this business no longer do a buyer consultation. They put people in their car, and shoot them over and meet the property before they do anything. We see it all the time now because, yes, the leads are different. They're generated quicker. They're required to meet certain requirements. So they miss that space where this is where the element's missing in your business. The value proposition is, what are you doing to sit there? Every buyer consultation I ever did in the past years ago, if I did and spent all my time in the beginning to get all these things mapped out, set all the expectations, create all of the things in the sequence in which they were going to present themselves, my situation and my transaction was so much smoother. I had no problems. I had no issues. I had no questions. My buyer never came back and says, hey, you never told me that. Oh, in the 9th hour. No, everything was set in place and was already regulated. So the buyer consultation piece is where everybody needs to get back to, where you will be signing your buyer rep or your buyer broker agreement, wherever you're at. This is, in essence, a quality of where you're going to enhance your business and where you lay out your value proposition of what you're doing, strategizing with your clients, helping them understand the market. Because as the market shifts, we could be a buyer's market, a seller's market. We have to be very inquisitive with that to let them know how to present their offers. In fact, that they got to trust you, knowing that you're the professional and that your job is to get them into the home of their dreams at the least amount as possible with the least amount of headaches as possible too. That's why you're the buffer for this. That's why they pay you the money they do. Your commissions are based off of your ability to help that agent or that consumer and do their thing. So here's where you got to go back to that. This is where I think everybody needs to take a breather. And like you said, this is not a enforced rule yet. This is just it's still in the process, and it's not even until July. So it has to go through a few other things at that point. So there's no reason even to start causing waves or ruckus or create some bad energy around it. Just business as usual and get back to the basics of actually really representing who you are, your value proposition, setting things in place by buyer reps or buyer brokers. People have been in the business long enough. If you've been in the business for 15 or years more, we were doing buyer broker agreements and buyer reps back in the day. That's all we did. That was required. We did that in our business. We've gotten away from that, where a lot of people weren't doing the buyer reps and buyer broker agreements. It was too fast, and they were turning and burning. So we were like overlooking that process, and then we were relying on the fact that we were going to look on MLS and already see our compensation for the cooperating broker that they're in. So here we just got to go back. We got to go back, step back, take a breather, and get to a place in where you're really showing your value in doing that and enhancing the opportunity of showing why. Cindy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just really hoping that the buyers hold their standards high. And when they are filling out brokers agreements, to go for the 3%. Because if there's going to be cheap rate agents out there and buyers are shopping that, yeah, they get what they pay for again. But yeah, you have to keep the standards high. I mean, I'm hoping that agents will do that and not be scared and just put 1%, because we got into this business to make money, and it's there to be had. So show your value and keep it high. Keep those standards up there for everybody.
You're right. And the reality is, this is no different. Like as Dylan mentioned earlier, this is no different than us doing where we're going to get a listing agreement signed. We're going to go to a seller's home, get a listing agreement signed. We're going to charge 6% because that's what your value. Every one of my listing presentations or my listing agreements I already hard printed in there. In the line for conversation, I had 6% already hard print. I didn't ever handwrite. It was already in my listing agreement, 6%, because that was my value. And that's what I brought to the table. And that's what I thought it was worth. So I never was in a negotiation ever for my 6%. Now you're going to be standing in front of these buyers doing the same conversation. You're going to have to represent them and share that your value is worth 3%, or whatever it is you think it is. And again, do not put an amount that you can't go below or above. This is your amount. So if you think you're worth 1, I know we should have another conversation around that, but it should always be at a percent what you can do it.
So the important point here, right, to Cindy's point, is the person that upholds the buyer agent commission standard is going to be listing agents, right? So what I talked about, if listing agents hold the line and say, no, I'm not going to take this listing unless you offer buyer agent compensation, because the most important part of the marketing budget for a listing is not the pictures that you take, it's not the videos that you make, it's not the staging that you do, it's the compensation for the buyer's agent that gets every buyer's agent in the market to bring their buyers to your property, right? It's a marketing budget is what the buyer agent commission is. And if selling agents, if listing agents hold the line and continue to offer buyer agent commissions, the discount buyer agent is the one that's gonna get screwed, right? Because if my listing offers 3% and Chris, you say I'm gonna represent buyers for 1%, and you bring a buyer to my property and we get under contract, I pay you 1%, I'm gonna keep 5%. because I got a 6% listing, and you cannot take more than what you agreed to with your buyer. So it's gonna be a catch-22 for discount buyers agents if listing agents hold the line and actually continue to communicate to their clients the value of providing buyer agent compensation. So that's a big one. I think that we as a community, we as an industry are going to have to uphold. Like, I feel like I've always held the line. If you want to crazy overprice your property, I'm just not going to take the listing. I'm going to tell you, no, thank you. Go find somebody else that's going to waste their time, right? And I feel like we got to get to the point where we're going to do the same thing for buyer agent commissions, right? If you want to list your property with me and you're not going to offer a buyer agent commission, we could do two things. Either you list it with somebody else, or you list the property for 3% less than market value, because market value has commissions built into it. And are you willing to do that? Because if you're not, I'm not willing to overprice your property by 3% and take a listing that I feel like I'm at a disadvantage to sell because I have compensation available to buyers agents. So that's a big, and have a heart-to-heart. Take a listing for 3% and not offer any buyer agent commission, but there's larger implications if you do that.
Yep. Makes sense. I love it. Thanks, Dylan. Sasha, go for it. You have a question.
So when you say that the buyer's agent won't be able to take more than what they've negotiated on their own side, how are we going to know that? How are we going to know what they take?
Here's the simple way you solve this, Sasha, is you sign a 3% buyer's agent representation agreement, period. You don't negotiate it down, because if the seller is offering 2.5%, you can take 2.5% and forget about the other 0.5%. But if you sign a 1% buyer representation agreement and the seller's offering 3%, you get 1%. You don't get the other 2%. So that's part of this proposal, is that you cannot take more than what you agree upon. You can only take less. So,
no, I totally get that.
Yeah,
I totally get that. But what I'm saying is, like, how do I mean, is escrow gonna know? They're gonna see. Oh, I guess, yeah, they're gonna see like who gets.
Just like a listing agreement, right? We gotta submit our listing agreement to escrow to show them what the commissions are gonna be. Just like that on the buy side, when we submit a contract, we're gonna submit our buyer's representation agreement.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then also to add to that real quick, even if you did do 3% and the buyer and seller side only did 2.5%, now at this point you can also try and negotiate with your buyer to pay the other half. That's not like an end. It's not dead. If the seller's only paying 2.5% and you put on your buyer rep 3%, then that's the opportunity to have a conversation again with that buyer that you're working with. Like, hey, well, they're compensating 2.5%. I have 3% on this buyer rep, so we got a 0.5% here to talk about, and where you need to pay up to represent that. And that 0.5% is totally feasible. Like Dylan said, there's a large majority of people that can afford a 0.5% to buy a property. And if they can't, that's like saying I'm going to go to the store and buy a really expensive Versace jacket, but I can't afford to pay the tax on the jacket, then I shouldn't be buying the jacket right now. That's another conversation you have when you're sitting down doing a buyer consult, to really evaluate everything within that conversation with your client. If they're, and I remember years ago back in the day, we had, we still have some, but they're like option arm loans that we're doing, or even like the Cal HAFA loans in California. They have them. They call Cal HAFA, where literally the government came in and paid the 3% on an FHA, 3.5%. The government paid the 3%. The buyer only had to come in with a 0.5% to buy a home, which in some cases was like $600. And so people were like, oh, I'm going to buy a home. All I got to come up with $600. No, you still have to have money in your bank. You still got to have some money. You can't just come to the store and buy like $20 worth of grocery. You got to have money in your bank if you're buying a home. That's the conversation to have, right? You don't come with $600 in your bank and you can buy the house. You got to have some more skin in the game. So this is the conversation again for you as a professional to sit here and have with your consumer or your client. Here, this is what we're looking at. We're looking to buy. So this is a conversation you have again. Couple of questions there. Kim, I think Kim raised your hand first. Kim, go for it. Are you there, Kim? Mike's muted still if you're there, or if we lost you, we'll move on to. All right, Brandy, let's go to you, Brandy, next, and we'll come back to Kim. Go for it, Brandy.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I wanted to tell you guys, I've been doing research on grants too for first-time homebuyers because this will affect my VA, and that's who I mostly work with, right? So trying to help them kind of find solutions to it. And if you just Google, literally, there's so many grants out there for people that are first-time homebuyers that they can get, they have to do the documentation, they have to do the work. But that's part of now my buyer consultation with people is that I'm starting to add in these opportunities for grants for certain things. Like you fill it out, you might only get $2,000, but that's $2,000 more than you didn't have, right? Like, so having those resources available makes us even more valuable to them, right? And I think because we've been so fortunate to have it built into the listing agreement that we just walk in the door and we know we're going to get paid, I think we've gotten lazy. So now this is like, how are we like solution based, right? What's our solution to this problem? It's not going to, like Dylan said, 88% of the population can buy a house. This percentage that can't is usually, USDA, like these people that are struggling anyways. So if you can get them the resources, and it's going to take time too, this instant gratification is going to go away now. So you got to do the work, you got to put in the documentation, you get the money in your account, and then we start looking at properties. That's how I've kind of started to adjust it for them. So it's just a suggestion for people if you're trying to find solutions for that.
I think it's going to weed out the looky-loos too, the people that just call you and, oh, can you show me this property? And say, sure, you want to sign a buyer's rep? And they'll go, what? So.
Agreed. So a lot of the times, again, we're going to go into a space that we've now come into in the last decade or so of online leads, right? It's what it is. Internet leads come in like this, like bam, 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 bam. And we're not getting that relationship built because that model is not designed around relationships. It's about converting. So we're gonna have to get back to doing real estate like we did 20 years ago, where we actually met people face to face, sat down, had a conversation, discussed all the options, and even figured out if it's a client you want to work with. How many of you have actually lately sat down with a client and across the table and says, we're not a good fit. Here's my expectation. This is how I run my business. Maybe we're not in alignment. I might need to refer you to somebody else because that's how you run your business. Get back to understanding the value proposition is how you want to run your business and what it looks like. And in the beginning, when we all started our real estate career, we were so hungry because we would take anything. So we were taking anybody and everybody under the sun. But as you graduated and got progressively better in your business to where your phone starts ringing, at some point, you get to turn people away. You get to choose who you want to work with. Now we're going to get back to that and spend that time. Find out where that person on the other side of the table is worthy of your time and your energy and vice versa. Okay? This is where we're going to get back to the relationships again. Thank you, Brandy, for sharing some of that with us. Paul.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
I got my microphone finally unmuted.
Yeah,
Hey, I am licensed in Minnesota and Florida, and each state, NAR, this is still, like Dylan said, in the early stages, right?
Yes.
So each state is trying to figure out how to deal with this problem. And Florida, has already stated that as far as their rules under the NRI ruling, Minnesota has not figured it out yet. But Florida is still saying that it can be put into the private comments that are only seen by agents, the financial comments, so that it probably, you're still going to have the conversations with your sellers onto whether they want to pay and how you want to deal with it. But in reality, it really probably won't change a whole lot of how you do business because you can still promote it. And it just can't be out on public comments. It has to be put into private. And each state's going to do something different. Minnesota hasn't made a ruling on it yet, but Florida has. So it's all something of we need to wait and see in the next couple months and see what happens.
Agreed.
I'm gonna start a trend that we're just gonna put the private comments. We're gonna use fruit as the code word. So a seller will give the buyer's agent 3 bananas upon successful completion of the sale. So you know what the bananas mean, right?
Yep. 3 bananas. I love it. Hey, there's always a way around a way, right? We got to get creative. It's all being calm, resourceful. But yes, you're right, Kim. I think everybody at this point, state by state, is going to have to change. And obviously, everybody's going to make different adjustments. What works in Minnesota may not work in Florida, California, Washington, Hawaii. But you just got to be aware at this point, what I want to really take away from this is that at some point, if this does become something in July, if it does, then each state's going to have to take their own hand at this. But the real estate business as a whole, the relationship business as a whole, doesn't matter. Across the state, that conversation with your client and your consumer is the same. Your value proposition to your client and consumer is the same. Everything is the same in that way, an aspect. How we decide to let this look, whether it's on an addendum or in the contract or in the private notes, you're right. It's going to be decided at that point. But just, I think all the other part though is like, we need to worry about that stuff. We need to get back to just staying in our lane, focusing on our most important part of building our business, being of value to our clients, being of value to ourselves, and realizing how much we're worth in this business. Okay. Become the Johnny Cochran of attorneys. You need to become that person where people seek you out, but really can't afford you. I mean, I look at it, I would say it's like the Ritz-Carlton. Everybody wants to stay there, but not everybody can afford it. But everybody wants to stay there. Become the Ritz-Carlton environment of your business, that you can create this, that people want to use you, and your value proposition is so strong that that's what they want to pay for it. You pay for value all day long. Paul, you had a question there for a while, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just was wondering on the interpretation of not taking more commission than you've originally agreed to.
Yes.
What do you think about like when there's seller's bonuses? Sometimes there's like, you know, $5,000 bonus for a full price offer. Do you think that would is going to be going away as well, or do you think that would be acceptable?
Well, I think at some point within those kind of comments, it's still commission and to the other side, obviously, to help them bring in buyers. So I think at that point, that verbiage is no longer going to be allowed either. To be able to say in comments, hey, we're going to give you $5,000. No, it's just not going to be allowed, because it's still compensation on the end of the day. And that's going to be maybe a conversation that they have separately, just like you having to call listing agent saying, hey, so what is this cooperating commission that we're talking about? Maybe that's something they could tell you over the phone. Hey, we're offering a $5,000 bonus or something of that nature. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. But yeah, I would say that it's not going to be allowed on MLS anymore, though. Brandy, you had a question?
No, I was going to say, I'm actually really, really excited to actually have agents call me before they send me a stupid offer without like talking to me first. This is like a game changer now, because everyone's going to call about the money, right? But then you can be like, so like, tell me about your client. Like, you can actually have those conversations that people have gotten away with. Like, I got like 3 offers in my inbox the other day that nobody called me, nobody asked me questions. No, like, I'm just like, you're doing a disservice to your client. So I'm kind of excited for that level of professionalism to come back.
I 100% agree with you. If you as a buyer's agent are not calling the listing agent, number one, to find out what that seller is looking for, then you're already disservicing your client and you're not doing your job. Hands down. Every time I put an offer in, or my client was even interested remotely in a property, I would instantly call listing agent and find out, introduce myself, ask him what the seller's looking for. I would be interviewing her as if she was the seller, and I wanted to find out what the most highest bullet points of them, because sometimes it's not about the money. The sellers may want a rent back for 90 days or 6 months. The seller may just want things done quick, closed quicker, or whatever, for whatever reasons, but you don't know that because you haven't called. Okay, you're just servicing your business, you're just servicing your buyers, your buyers. So yes, everybody's gonna be calling now. So here's the other side of that, Brandy. Everybody needs to answer their phone. How many times you're calling agents right now and nobody answers their phone?
That's fair. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've made
I'm
calls.
like, oh, I don't recognize this number. Doesn't matter. Pick it up.
Yep. It's going to make everybody get behind all this, like, oh, it's spam. No, it's probably another, buyer's agent calling about this because they might know what the compensation is on the other end. It's going to change the dynamic of the business in that sense. But that's a good change. This gets everybody back to going to work. This is what it's all been about, though, from day one. This is about us doing things, getting in the trenches and really building your business. Solid business. So you're right. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, if this goes through, the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see an amazing group of cultured, great professionals who build an amazing real estate business that's going to be sustainable beyond all other markets. That's what this is going to be.
Hey, I would add to that, Chris. We're already seeing it, right? Since this happened in October, we leaned heavy into buyer consultation training and getting buyer's rep agreements signed, and we had a whole crop of new agents that we put through our boot camp in January, and are like already have deals in the pipeline, and they're all getting buyer's rep agreements signed. They're brand new because they don't know any different, right? They don't have any preconceived notions. Everybody thinks like, oh, it's such a scary conversation, and buyers are going to object. It's like 100%. Everybody just signs it. And one of our new agents had a 3% buyer's rep agreement signed, and the seller was offering 2.5, and she stressed out about having the conversation. And she had the conversation with the buyer, and the buyer was like, oh my goodness, that's the best news ever. I thought I had to pay the whole 3%. They're going to pay 2.5, only 0.5%. That's awesome. They were like stoked to hear that was the case, right? So we all have this preconceived notion in our head, like this is going to be a terrible conversation and people are going to object to it and all of it. crazy fear in our head when really a lot of people just expect that that's going to be the case. And going forward, after a year or two, it's just going to be industry standard. It's not going to be a big deal. So we'll be fine.
Agreed. If you're worried about having a conversation about a 0.5% to your buyer, then you're gonna be stressed out about going to a listing agreement and having the seller think you're gonna charge them 6%. That's a bigger conversation. If you're so it's no different. It's just a different person you're having a conversation with, and your value proposition will shine through. Tara, you had a question.
No, I just wanted to say thank you guys for all of the leaders on here, because it matters that we have such an amazing team, because this lawsuit is not even like a thing that I'm worried about at all because of that, because Dylan has us do this as our standard operating procedures. It's just a thing that we do. So for us, it feels like nothing is changing really. And we have the ability to like set that standard, because I think about all these other like little brokerages that don't have amazing leaders and big teams like this, that don't talk about this, and they're the ones are probably going to screw it all up for everybody else, because they don't have the right mindset that we have, that this is a great thing. And if we just do this as our SOPs, like nothing is different for us. Like, no, we're not shaking in our boots about no lawsuit, because this is such an amazing opportunity for all of us. And I think having the right people sharing and how we talk about this, to me, I feel so confident. I'm like, it's not even a thing to me about this crazy lawsuit. I get it, but it's not changing what we do, because we know our value. And I think that's the message that we need to just keep pushing out there, that we're going to keep helping people buy and sell homes regardless. And I think that if people had this type of training and mentorship, nobody would be worried at all about it. So much for on space.
We're
for all
gonna
of us to
weed
talk.
out. We're gonna weed out the people we don't need. So that's all good. With change comes promising. I think it's awesome. I mean, in 34 years, I watched a lot of changes, from the MLS book to like everything that's going on. It's nuts. So you just got to roll with the punches and just look at the positive side of everything, because it's there. And I think this is going to be great. I love it.
Yeah, to add on to Tara's point, right? It's leadership all the way to the highest level. Like, has anybody seen Gary Keller's reaction to this? Has anybody seen whoever Anywhere's president is? It changes like every 6 months. Has anybody seen Remax's president talk about this? Like, nobody else is getting out in front of this, because I don't know why. I mean, it's shocking to me that you don't. I mean, in times of change and crisis, that's when you need leadership, and there's like none of that going on outside of EXP. And I can tell you guys, Leo Pajeda, if you haven't watched that video, watch that video. I've interacted with him personally a couple of times, and that guy is one of the smartest dudes I've met when it comes to real estate. And having a guy like him in a position that he's in, like, how many real estate companies have a chief strategy officer? Like, his whole job is to figure out strategy, solve problems, build relationships. Like, that's the kind of mentality that EXP has. And you're just in the right place all the way to the highest levels. And just Leo is, I've been super, super impressed with Leo, and we're blessed to have him in a leadership position, in addition to Glenn and everybody else. But we're in good hands. That's the main thing you got to remember, is we're in very good hands, and we're going to be ahead of it. Just like with EXP exclusives, you guys, like if shit hit the absolute fan, worst case scenario, and we had to go completely exclusive listings, we are in a position to do that nationally already. Nobody else can do that. The small brokerages can't do that. Nobody else is in a position, and our leadership saw this thing. I mean, a year ago that we rolled out EXP exclusives. Now it's on us to adopt it and start using it. But we have the system in place. We have a solution if worst case scenario happens, which it's not. But every solution at every single level of the spectrum is there just in case, and I love that. So we're in the right place, you guys.
100%. You realize that as an independent brokerage in every state in the U.S., we have access to at this point, every MLS. Whereas every other like franchise does not have the capacity to do so, because they're all independent markets. So we have one huge conglomerate, massive umbrella of access to all the data, entire U.S. Now imagine that. And it go for Drill's right. If we went exclusive, we have it. What's that platform again? Was it Zenith or what was that?
Zenlist.
Zenlist. Yeah, I was watching that with Zenlist is already something. I didn't even know about Zenlist until I watched it on yesterday's video. Zenlist is our one unified platform right now that EXP has. If you haven't gone it, go on it. It's part of your monthly Zenlist, and it has access to every property, even ones that are not even on the market, coming soons. It's on that, because even MLSs have access to coming soons. It is all EXP throughout all of the entire U.S. You put your properties in, and you can go there and you can look at everything across the U.S. It's called Zenlist. Now you have access to something that nobody has. I can promise you that. No other brokerage has access to this. Zenlist is an amazing platform that you guys can tie into. Has access to properties that are on right now, coming soon. Everything is accessed there. But yes,
this is the position we're in, right? I mean, going to the worst case scenario, because you got to be prepared for it, is if for whatever reason buyer agency went away, right, and you couldn't, and we didn't, and the MLSs went away, I'm very confident that within EXP we could sell 90% of the homes with in-house, right? If we just posted it into an internal MLS, we're so big, we have such a huge footprint, we could sell like 90% of our own listings. And if I'm a small brokerage and that's the only way I can do business, sell my own listings, I would be shaking in my boots right now, because that is the biggest threat in the whole entire industry, is the insulation of the small brokerage, the small franchise. They would be completely screwed in that situation, and there would be a bump in the road. It would be a little bit more difficult, but I'm very, very confident that we could sell every listing we ever get with the footprint that we have in an exclusive system if we had to go to it. So not going to happen, but if it we're good. Either way, we're good. Worst scenario, we're good. Best case scenario, we're even better. So.
Well, and I'll never say never, because I thought, I don't think the government could ever close our entire world down, but they did that. So I'm going to say this point, you're right. Either way, we're good. Either way, we're good. In the best case scenario, we're amazing. In the worst case scenario, we're still thriving. Either way, could it happen? Maybe. I don't know. But the reality is, here we are. We're in a position that we have access to all this data. It's always been about data, though. It's always been about data and who has the most control of data. And so here we are. I don't know. I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I won't go down that path. That's a rabbit hole. But the reality is, here we are now in a change, a big change, if it does go through, to actually make us revert and go back to the way we should be doing our business. Isn't this ironic that we get so far to the point that we're almost like a stigma or some point, a laughing stock as realtors, because the entry level to get in this business is very, very small. It doesn't take much. The reality is, but we're handling people's finances and their ability to buy the largest purchase of their entire life. But yet we don't have to go through a regimented course of training like an attorney or a CPA or a financial planner. Our licenses require in California, our continuing education is every 4 years. Here in Hawaii, I think it's every 2 years, but it's literally minimal cost to even keep that license. And the education is very minimal too. So my point in saying it is that we're at this place where we're at this equal playing field where our professionalism has kind of gone down the hole a little bit. And now we're bringing it back up. So this is such an amazing concept that however you want to look at it, spin it, and slice the pie. We're in a position now where we can become true professionals within our own career and our own business, but just follow the path, stay in sequence of it, continue to build a minimum. This is about who could build the best relationships and show your value and run your business from the best places you can. That's the key to this business. That's it. Other than that, we are same channel, same time. It hasn't changed. Just become better. Be better. And like everybody on this call mentioned right now, hoping that people will keep their standards up, right? Keep all the ethics going. This is about just being better. So just be better. If you take away anything, is be better at your job. Be better at your career. Be better as a human being. And then we can all really win in this scenario. I posted both things in the comments, by the way. Two things. The YouTube link, that's the Leo Pereira video. If you haven't watched it, I would watch it if you want to get deep into the weeds and really want to get all the specifics of what it looks like. Sometimes that's too much for me. I'm like, but and then also the link for the Build 2024 coming up in Hawaii. Any questions? We got about 4 more minutes here. Anybody have any insight, thoughts, questions, conspiracies, whatever you think you want to throw out there about what's going down? Or maybe just like, I feel like I'm still lost. I don't know. And that's okay. Where there's some people in the business, but like I said, Dylan's right. If you're new in the business and you're coming in at this point, man, good for you. Because if you came in the business 10 years ago, you'd have to go through all of this roller coaster of all these bad behaviors and things that you were going through to get to the place you're at today. So yeah, anybody's thoughts, ideas, concepts you have that you maybe want to share? Anything else before we go? We've got 3 minutes left. Bueller, is that it? Bueller? All right. Somebody who's talking? Your microphone's muted. Whoever,
Hey,
there we go.
hi Chris, it's Twan. How you doing? Hi everybody. Hi, great conversation. I learned a lot. I just wanted to share that I've been in the business for 22 years and I've been getting tons of phone calls from other colleagues in every different company, Caldwell, Compass, Keller Williams, and locations where I was at for 20 years, and no one has been ahead like EXP. They're, I mean, they're not even talking about it. You know, I think like for locations, they're going to talk about it in their next meeting, which is like 3 weeks away. And here we are, you know, already on top of it. And so I'm so proud of our leadership. Just wanted to share that, and really glad for you all.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, Juan. Must be. You're right. It's interesting. Like I literally I posted the other day the Glenn Sanford. If you guys haven't watched the Glenn Sanford video, I posted on Team Freedom Facebook. Get on that. He had put a whole exclusive interview, kind of laying out all the things for EXP and where we're at in our position and how we're looking at this and engaged. So go to that. You're right. It all starts, Dylan's right, to the top down. And Glenn is an amazing example of that, who's taking the reins and leading the EXP and doing what we need to do. And we've had multiple discussions. Yesterday, if you missed the Kyle Whistle, Dylan was on it too. Daniel Beer, Kyle Whistle, Veronica Figueroa, Tina Call, all these amazing top. I mean, I think combining that call, Dylan, there's probably like 30 plus years in the business and thousands of transactions combined on that one call. And those guys laid it out. And which is great there too, is a jumping ahead of the 8 ball and helping you see how to navigate through all this too. So the support here has been amazing with EXP. It's been nothing short of amazing and spectacular. And again, it starts with Glenn, who's been the insight of this thing since day one. So yes, I'm proud to be part of EXP. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else at this point, because I think we're kind of laying the roadmap to really make it more digestible, to understand that we're not in a place of scarcity right now. This is a place of abundance. This is a place of opportunity. This is a place where you get to shine. For once in your business, shine and become that true warrior that nobody is able to see because you've been kind of down in the backwards and behind the closed curtains, right? Here we are. This is time to shine, everybody. And you have this massive support. We have our groups every Tuesday. We have everybody has their own teams too. We have so many layers between this with EXP within our group that really at this point, if you're not being successful, I would say more often than not, you haven't showed up to one of our meetings. You haven't plugged in. You haven't. I don't know where you've been. But yeah, I can say that because I mean, I ran like massive companies like Keller Williams where people would walk into my office and tell me they were leaving and I had no idea who they even were. I'm like, who are you? Like, oh yeah, I've been here for like, 9 months. I'm like, I haven't seen you at one meeting. I haven't seen you at one training. I haven't seen you ever. And like, oh yeah, well, this isn't really working for me here at Keller Williams. Like, okay, cool. Nice to not know you. It's kind of right. It's how it works. Nice to not know you. Never met you, but you only get out what you put in. This is how the business is paid. Direct correlation of what you put out is what you get back in return. That means you showing up too and plugging in these meetings. So yeah, I love and appreciate every one of you guys. I want nothing but true success for all you guys. We have amazing people. Dylan, thank you so much. You've been traveling on this call. You guys, I love you all. It's amazing. We have amazing people on here, and I want you to continue to grow. Do not look at this as a negative thing. This is a positive thing. This is an opportunity to grow. And you guys need anything, please reach out to any one of us at any given time, and we can help you weather this and walk you navigate through this whole process. All right? You guys have an amazing week. Love you guys. Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha.
Rock it. Crush it. All right, guys.
Bye, Chris. Thank you.
You're welcome.